From the blueprint to the final nail, in open discussions with industry professionals of all kinds, we break down the complicated world of the building process done right. This is the Holistic Building Experience.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. We'd like to welcome you to the Holistic Building Experience. And this is a podcast where we engage in open discussion. We bring various building professionals, building officials, and sometimes even homeowners and others on here in an effort to help people that are looking to build or develop their property. Obviously, in today's world, there are many complexities anytime that somebody's looking to purchase and build on their land. And so our goal with this is to help people to navigate this process better. And so today, as you listen to the Holistic Building Experience, we want to remind all of our listeners that to the extent that we're discussing and explaining various building and land concepts, the information that we discuss is for your convenience only, and it should not be construed as professional advice specific to your project, nor should it replace the need to hire a design professional. But this is just to give you some general advice, help you to understand the process a little better. So all of our listeners need to perform their own research, you need to complete your own due diligence, and you need to verify any and all information heard on this podcast. We should never rely on the information discussed solely without verifying that it is, in fact, correct and applicable to your project. So, with that said, we have John with us today. He's a professional engineer in the state of Colorado. And we also got Mindy here with us. Mindy works with the business, Littlehorn Engineering. And I am Joe, by the way. We're glad that you've joined us. And so we just want to introduce John and talk a little bit about his background, his expertise, maybe what drew him into the architectural, environmental, civil, and structural engineering world. John does a lot of different things, and he's been doing it for a long time. So I'll turn it over to John. John, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Yeah, good afternoon, Joe. Thanks for getting us started there. I really appreciate it. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Colorado, and I've been a practicing engineer for a little over a couple of decades, and I've had the privilege of being involved in thousands of building projects and even some building projects outside the state. And as an engineer, I've designed septic systems in everything from driveways to retaining walls to residential buildings, commercial buildings, and it's an exciting industry. We're seeing all kinds of changes in the industry today. I've been involved in seeing many projects for concrete homes, straw bale type homes, log homes, tire bale homes, conventionally framed homes. Timber frame homes are pretty popular, especially up in the mountains. And we've even designed various styles of homes, including high-end modern styles, rustic log homes, farmhouse, contemporary, cottage style, Victorian. So we see a lot of stuff up in our area. And, I've had the privilege of being involved in thousands of projects, and over time that's given us quite a bit of experience.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think did you mention tire bale homes and stuff like that? Straw bale homes? I know some of those are getting more popular these days, and stuff that's kind of off-grid. Obviously, green energy is becoming a bigger thing. People looking to be more sustainable, and just, maximize the heating effects, passive solar, that's big stuff. I think maybe you already mentioned that in your list, but you have quite a bit of experience working with some of that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I never like to say I have quite a bit of experience, even if we've been involved in, hundreds of projects. The reason I say that is our industry is extremely complex. I think it's, as engineers, even the most skilled engineers, we can find concepts and problems challenging to understand. I do a lot. The industry is extremely, it's a growing industry. Things are changing. It's very detailed. There's lots of building codes, and it can definitely be a challenge to stay abreast as to everything going on in the industry.
Right. Well, I think it's cool that you try at least. There's a lot to know, but I think people having access to your vast reserve of information and experience is going to be very helpful to them.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to do a podcast. I felt like people come from all over the world, and I practice in Colorado. Colorado's a fairly popular place. People come to Aspen, they come to Vail, Steamboat Springs, other places in the mountain communities, and they want to build their dream home. And some people move here just to build a small log cabin. We've seen several people that want a small garage with a small living space above the garage, and they like that lifestyle that Colorado offers. And I, throughout my career, I've seen people spending thousands of dollars, and in some cases, as you know, construction costs today hundreds of thousands of dollars. And many times I find homeowners and others involved in the process don't really understand what it takes to develop a site, to go through the permitting stages, and both at the county and state levels, and to build that home. So I wanted to create a podcast that would be a place where people can go to gain some insight into all of these aspects. And my goal is really to sit down with all kinds of various people. I want to sit down with county officials, state officials, and really discuss what they do, what the permitting process is involved. I think it'd be great to sit down with some well drillers and discuss well permitting through the state level. What is a well? And just to discuss all that and to better understand all of those kinds of things, everything from excavators to builders to special craftsmen, maybe to people that put in septic systems, and really try to have a podcast that people can tune into a particular podcast for a particular item and gain some insight into that item. I think that's invaluable, and I think it's something that homeowners and building officials and possibly other design professionals, I think it's going to help everybody, and that's the goal. I just want to try to help people.
So, John, since you've worked in the mountains for a couple of decades now, we know that you face a lot of challenges with difficult terrain and various types of geologic variations in the mountain environment. And so I was just wondering if you could give us sort of an explanation briefly how you navigate issues such as steep slopes, tight spaces, and wetlands.
Yeah, this is a great question. People often start by meeting with a realtor who then shows them various properties online, or if they're able to, they'll see those in person, and obviously that's always preferable if you can do that. Often, these properties I see in neighborhoods are within the same neighborhood can be completely different with respect to the cost, the amount of money that it takes to develop that property. In other words, you might have a lot, and if you go across the same street, there could be another lot, and they can vary in regards to slope, steepness. Do they contain wetlands, seasonal stream? Are there other site constraints? And these are some of the specific challenges that I see your average homeowner having to deal with. They go out, they meet with a realtor, they look at a lot, maybe a property's priced at $100K. They look across the street, that one's $150K. And it's a challenge. Should I buy that one or should I buy that one? Oftentimes people are looking at maybe views, but are they thinking about other things? Wind protection, year-round sun exposure, access, how we put in foundations, types of soils, things like that. And as a result, I see a lot of homeowners that make the common mistake where they'll buy a property in one area just because it's cheaper, and it could be cheaper by $50,000. But then when they actually hire a design professional and they go to develop that lot and they find out that, wow, this lot's going to cost me $1 million to develop. Had I bought that one and saved or actually spent $50,000 more, maybe I could have built the same exact home for $800,000 instead of $1 million. So it more than paid for the lot. And these difficulties often are not readily visible, and that's why I think a podcast like what we're gonna do here is important, because we're gonna help with all these various tasks and things. We're gonna walk through some of these unforeseen variables in construction and development.
Okay, yeah, good. One of the questions that I wanted to ask was, obviously you are a what's the word I'm thinking of?
Multidisciplinary.
Multidisciplinary. You're a multidisciplinary engineer. You do a lot of things, but obviously there are occasions on every project where you collaborate with other professionals in this process. So when it comes to you and your work, what is the importance of that collaboration? And also maybe, I don't know, what tips and tricks, or, what do you do when you're collaborating with another professional on a project, be it a contractor or maybe there's an architect, because we're doing civil stuff and they're doing house plans. Let's talk a little bit about that maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up an interesting point. I do a lot of stuff. I just try to surround myself with a lot of smart people who are familiar with the different aspects and phases of different things. I think that's important. Going on to your question about looking at a project in a whole, I like the term holistic. I look at a project in terms of the whole project. And I think that that's something that's really missed today. I think there are people that, design the architectural part of the house, but then someone else prepares the structural drawings for that house. Then someone else designs the septic system. Someone else designs the driveway and the site and grading. And there's just a lot of different designers that are involved. And as we look at some of these new projects, you're now going to have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, plumbing engineers. It's just more and more design professionals. And it's important that there be, this collaboration in terms of how much are people talking to each other? How often do their plans really coincide with each other? Are they completely cohesive? Oftentimes we see the opposite. We see a good, wonderful, beautiful set of architectural plans, but the structural plans don't match the architectural set and vice versa. So those kinds of things we see a lot in the industry, and that's something that we'll be looking at as part of this podcast. Hopefully we can bridge some of these gaps and give people some tools and experiences to help navigate and really understand these kinds of concepts and things.
Yeah, and I want to unbox that just a little bit more. So I think in most instances where people have a project that they're working on, a very large number of them are not going to have a professional like you involved that can do all of these things, 6 or 7 of these things all together coming from one place that integrate well naturally. If one person's doing them, there's going to be pretty good integration probably between each layer. But I think for many people that are working on a project, developing a place, the industry standard is going to be to have different professionals for all of these things. Is there anything that they can do to make that collaboration go smoother, go better? Because obviously there's a lot of instances in your projects where, like you said, people don't talk to each other enough. Things get missed. They don't overlay well, structurals, architecturals. They put the septic in the wrong place because the civil guy wasn't really thinking about it, and he should have been, or at least should have been collaborating with the septic guy, stuff like that. So for people that are working with multiple professionals, whether the people listening to this are architects or homeowners or whatever, is there any things really that they can do to help everybody mesh together a little smoother so that hopefully you reduce the amount of errors that come from miscommunication and you kind of make the process go a little bit more smoothly?
Yeah. What I see fairly commonly is a homeowner will come in and he'll hire his own architect. That architect will hire a structural engineer, but then the homeowner turns around and hires a septic engineer. The homeowner might turn around and hire a geotech. And suddenly the homeowners put themselves in a position of being a project manager. And that's where issues can come in. If that homeowner's well educated and schooled in construction, and for example, maybe is a licensed general contractor, that's great. But if you're not, and you're hiring all these pieces and components, that's where things go south, and they often do. With what we do, it helps if I'm involved in a project. For example, if this was just one of my projects, and I would go out and hire a mechanical engineer. I'm going to go hire an electrical engineer. I'm going to hire a registered land surveyor. And even those are subconsultants, we, by being involved in that, make sure that we're all communicating properly. I mean, that's the job of the project manager. And so if that project manager is educated enough in construction to really take that lead, that's great. But oftentimes they're not. And that's where the issues come in.
No, John, I was also thinking with all the new regulations that have been coming out, like you mentioned, I was wondering if you could share some insight on how all these requirements are affecting the design process.
Yeah, there's so many codes, there's so many building requirements today. Colorado is I don't think it's wrong to say can be very frustrating. We have some counties that have no building codes in the sense that they don't regulate building. They do in the counties I'm familiar with have zoning requirements, so they still require you to submit site plans and things. But when it comes to the actual construction, they don't regulate that. Other counties are on the 2006 IRC or IBC. Others are on the 2021 IRC and IBC. And even in one of the local jurisdictions that I work in, they've adopted the American Society of Civil Engineers, their new hazard tool, the ASCE hazard tool, which I think is a great tool. And by the way, we're going to have a future podcast that dives into that, and it's a fairly technical tool. And I wanted to do more of a technical broadcast, I guess, just to address that a little bit more. But all of these codes, all of these building requirements are really create a lot of complexity. And I think the general public, homeowners, building officials, even contractors, looking at understanding all of this information a little bit more is going to help them to navigate all this stuff.
Okay. So, and one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was there's obviously a lot of new trends coming out, technologies that have the potential to impact the future of residential design, especially in mountainous regions, but really everywhere too. What's your vision for the future of holistic building experiences and working in challenging terrain?
I think the industry is becoming more and more code-driven. As time goes on, we're seeing more unification with codes. We're seeing things like residential buildings that will require an electrical engineer, a residential building that will require a mechanical engineer. We're building our buildings so tight and have to meet all these energy requirements now. If you don't ventilate them and you don't detail your wall assemblies and ventilate your wall assemblies where you need to underneath sidings, roof diaphragms, things like that, we're going to run into more and more issues. So we're definitely, I think as I look into the future, I just see this trend of more and more regulation, more and more things have to be engineered because of the complexities that are involved. And, one of the codes that we're starting to see come into our local area is the International Wildland Urban Interface Code, the IWUIC. That's going to greatly impact how we build and develop properties because, especially in the mountain communities, you have a site with trees. We've seen some fires come through and just devastate neighborhoods. And we had the fire over in Granby recently, and you look at the damage that made, the impact with insurance companies and things. So there's going to be a lot of code changes, and things are being driven by insurance companies. And I think the emerging trend is going to be energy, fire protection, more code driven, and more engineering. But that's just what I'm seeing in my world.
Yeah, so it's definitely a complex world then, sounds like. And it's only going to get more complicated. So the importance of having a design professional will be I think, of increasing importance. But also educating yourself if you're a homeowner. And so I think that a resource like this podcast will be really good for a lot of people. And so
Yeah. I think people listen to a podcast to learn more about current events, to learn more about a particular topic, and people want to have fun. They want to laugh. And we're going to try to do all three of these things while we really stay within the building theme or the building realm. We really want to give the general public, builders, homeowners, people looking to buy property, other design professionals, and building officials too, some insight into all of the building and development processes.
I look forward to seeing what kind of discussions that we have, and I think it'll be really useful and relevant for people. So it'll be exciting to see what we can do with it. Anything else to add, Mindy, before we sign off? Any other questions? Things you can think of?
Oh, I do have a lot more questions, but I'm going to save those for future podcasts.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Appreciate both of you guys for being here with us today. And like I said, we look forward to catching you guys and, of course, all our listeners on future episodes that we hope that you will find useful on your morning commute or wherever you're listening to this. So thanks for tying in, and take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.